So this is the loom, engine bay loom, that I've been playing around with here. So I've been through and restored the majority of the bulkhead loom. I still need to do the steering column, and this is the engine loom. So basically we've got three big connectors here which join up on the bulkhead. You've got the master kind of power, you've got the main block, and then you've got the accessory gauges which are suitable for this age of car. We've got all of the wiring that goes down the V of the engine, alternator, and then we've got a couple of wires here for the ignition coil. We've got the a-suffix, and we've got the temperature sensor. Then we've got the wires for the electrical gauges, oil pressure light, or warning I should say, and the oil temperature probably, but the accessory wires, they're all in fairly poor shape. The pressure differential warning actuator PDWA switch that goes onto the bulkhead, and then we've got this chunk of wires here which goes down to the back of the starter motor. Okay, so basically the power, rather than having a distribution pin, they have a whole chunk of other wires. We'll go through those in a second. I'll tell you what they all are. And then lastly we've got the loom which has been chopped off and is a bit butchered, which goes down to the gearbox. So this is reverse light, handbrake warning, diff lock warning, and reverse lights, handbrake warning, diff lock warning. Yeah, I said it all. Right, now let's move this lot over here on top of the door that I'm restoring for the very same vehicle, and I'll go through what I'm actually looking at. So first and foremost, I've been through and I've degreased the whole bloody thing. There's still bits and bobs that need to be cleaned up, but on the whole it's in a far better shape than it has been. Now, as far as the wiring for the alternator is concerned, we've got some challenges here. Insulation has been burnt through. Not burnt through by anything particularly sinister, but it's not like it's overheated, but half the insulation has gone there. And the insulation is very brittle. It's not snapping through, but it just feels tight. It feels like it's at the end of its life. You see that one there, which is the starter solenoid wire. Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. There's all sorts of chaff, melted marks, there's all bits where it's just got a bit too close to the exhaust pipe holder. So that's really, you know, it's not the end of the world. And when it comes to these connectors, just a damn good dousing of electrical contact unit and wiggle the old connector in and out. On these male pins, what I tend to do is put a very small crosshead screwdriver in there and just splay it out very slightly. There's a rolled kind of join on the pin, just about there, you can see it. And by putting a crosshead screwdriver in the end, you can splay it out enough that it makes really good contact. If you've lost the bullet connector off there, they're unobtainium, I believe, unless Auto Sparks have started making them again. I have got the one for this car. Probably got a couple of spares as well. So that's it, that's engine bay loom. Not an awful lot to it really, is there? Soon have this back into very rude health. Right, okay, so we've got the loom laid roughly in place now. So we've got the wires for the alternator, etc, coming down the side of the engine. We've got the wires for the ignition coil, we've got the wires for the a-suffix, which is not fitted, and the temperature sensor. And then we've got all of the wires here, which go down towards none of the sensors that are down there, but one of those will be the oil pressure warning light. I might just make up new terminals to the ends of those. That can go down there. Probably run it underneath the engine mount there. Keep it out of the way. And then we've got all of the wires which go up, or should go onto the back of the starter motor. So basically this lot and this bundle of joy. Now, the terminal boxes that I traditionally have used are these things. So I get them from vehicle wiring products. It screws onto the bulkhead, bolt like that. I just run all the wires into the back of it, and then a single wire down to the back of the to go anywhere you want it to go, wherever you want it to go, it can go there. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be the best idea. I don't think it could fit there actually. It could even fit there. Might be a bit close to put it there. Probably more likely just screw it onto the bulkhead, or you can put it up here. It will go somewhere. A quick update on these doors. So this is the passenger door, which I didn't take the skin off. That's all seam sealed. I've given it a damn good coat of primer. I've been over it. There's only really one area that I want to address, and there's a few dents around where the lock goes, which I want to sort out. Tidy all this shit up down here. Just once, because it's where the seam sealer's kind of rippled up a little bit. All that was taking out, a little bit of filler there where I've nicked the door skin somehow. Just to tidy that up. Driver's door shell, this is the one that's been extensively restored. So we're down to a couple of mil of filler over the whole thing really, around and over the welds. This edge here, apart from a low point there and a low point there, I'm actually quite comfortable with. Now, where the hinges go, I really don't want any filler in there. Really, purely because when I start tightening things up, it's just going to crack the filler and fall out. And the same with this. So I might need to just invert the door and just percuss this back out again before I film. All this top edge I'm happy with. I still need to drill the hole there. That's for the retaining piece. So what I've been doing here is really just trying to true this thing up. Quite useful having a door that's largely unmolested, because I can then take a straight edge along various areas and see what should be and what, you know, basically may not be necessarily lining up. So for instance here, I can see that this edge here is slightly down. That is probably slightly too tall. Certainly the bottom edge is twisted down like that all the way along. I can soon fix that. That's not going to be too much of a problem. So I've straightened up the middle rib. So that is now within a millimetre straight across one side to the other. And basically all I'm doing is I'm positioning it on top of my I-beam, and just, I'll probably get sued for that actually. Is it an I-beam or an H-beam? It's not an I with a lowercase I, it's an I with a capital I. No, it's a capital I, I-beam. So really positioning the I-beam underneath and then putting some weight on it. And it is starting to get itself into shape. Here we can see that the bottom edge there has bowed down quite a lot. So let me get the tripod. Really want to try and true this edge up in. And I need to do all of this before I get anywhere near paint. Purely because that's totally serious. Purely because we're just going to end up cracking the floor so that by doing this. So what I'm doing there is I'm forcing the bottom rail around. Really good. This one over here. Just a case of going along and doing bits like this. Once it's all kind of in the right sort of shape, then paint the inside of it. Let's get it on. As you saw, that wasn't a huge hulking great load of force that went into that. Whoopsie, knock the camera over. Let's go see what it looks like now. It does look a lot less banana-y already. So that is a world better. Probably got a bit too far for that one. So just that. Once it's roughly in the right sort of shape, that's brilliant. That already I know is that one there. Just a little bit. It's coming better. And when we're talking within a millimetre or two, and you look at standard Land Rover tolerances being to the nearest square mile, this is old style Land Rover tolerances, by the way. But see, barely any filler down there now. Just the barest skim of filler down there. Actually, largely. And this corner has come back too. So really, on this corner down here, all I'm really looking at now is filler, probably in that area there. tiny bit of filler in there just to smooth that over. I'm not worried too much about the bottom edge just yet. I think what I'm going to do next, now this thing's straight, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to paint the inside with a 2-pack top coat, ready just to seal it. Because it is largely in the right sort of shape. This is looking a bit bowed up here. That is quite bowed. And on this one, similarly, it's a little bit bowed, but not as much as that one. I think the problem I've got here is in this location right here. So I probably could just. At the inside of this thing, it does look like Frankenstein's monster at the moment, doesn't it? But on the outside, you don't see any of this. And as long as I'm seam sealing around the edges here, there's no reason why this should rot out any quicker than it did before. Lots of seam sealer, lots of, once I've painted it, I shall put lots of Dynex and stuff into these voids here, which is typically where it rots. So Dynex will go in quite nicely in there. Right, I think therefore I am. Refitted the original driver's door skin to the original driver's door frame. It's gone on actually all right. Use a-suffix around between the steel and the aluminium and just kind of folded the lip back over. There's a couple of areas where there was damage already, which are not looking beautiful, but I'll tell you what, it's retained its shape. So that's going to go on the car tomorrow, and then I can paint it. In other news, I fitted the passenger door up. Quickest door ever to shim. The back wing isn't in its correct location yet, and it's sitting slightly far too out, and the front wing's only loosely bolted in place because I just wanted to get it roughly so I knew what was going on here. But I'm pleased with that. We come round over here. Door open. Door closed. Fuck me, doesn't that close nicely? Gaps are good at the back. Gaps are similar at the front. Quite a big gap, but like I say, I don't think the rear wing, you see the rubber for the sidey slide is caught down behind the wing. So I need to take the rear wing off, loosen that rubber so it can actually, basically the wing can go on properly and fit it into place. And then this can be painted too. Not that many shims either. A couple of shims on the a pillar, on the A pillar, really just to push this edge away. One tiny shim on the top, two shims on the bottom. No. Well, that's a step forward, isn't it? It really is. Magnificent. Right, that driver's door's going on tomorrow. And then in other news, well, there's another project coming. No, it's not, Bob. The clutch hydraulics pipes is all connected up, so I managed to find the original pipe, bendy pipe, new flexi, new bracket because that disappeared somewhere, and then the original clutch flexi pipe, rigid pipe, which would all folded up, but bearing in mind the car needs to show a bit of patina, it's solid, it ain't rusty, so popped it in. The other thing you can see here is I've mounted the terminal box here, so that will just have a wire running down to the back of the starter motor, and then from the battery to the starter motor, so that's all heading in the right direction. I need to have a fiddle around really with the front end of this engine, so I need to take the alternator bracket off and get that done. I'm probably going to end up starting this engine sooner rather than later, because once it does start, it needs to run for a period of time. So before I do that, I want to get the brakes bled, I want to get the wheels back on, I want to get it out of here and do that test out there. Door continues to, fuck my boots, doesn't that shut nicely? This is not the one that I did excessive amounts of work to. This one was actually in reasonable shape before I started. It still needs a top coat. And then what I've done is I've pulled the rear wing off for now, only held on with a couple of pop rivets. This area up here is all solid, so I've just put some Dynex on there. I've taken all of the lumps of wood and the tons of silicone sealant out, which were in the channel here, and the sliders are even still in there as well. Look at that. So really all I need to do is to get the new channels, and I can pop the original glass back in there, which is fantastic. I've also had the headlining out because it was gopping. and I was just getting fed up with it landing on my hair. And the other job I wanted to do today was to get the exhaust and everything all lined up. But I haven't got downpipes, so I need to order a pair of downpipes. I'll get the manifolds on, and then the exhaust can go on, and then the transmission cover can go on, because it'd be a lot easier doing that without the transmission cover. You don't need to take the transmission cover off to sort the exhaust downpipes, but while it's off, it makes the exhaust downpipes easier. Right, now I've done that up there, I'm going to pop this wing back on. I have got the rubber seal that goes around there. I don't know where it's gone though. Pretty much it can go on afterwards. I just won't pop rivet down this edge. I'll put the screws along the top here. What I'll do for the screws, I tend to use Acme fixings. It's not a concourse restoration, folks. These little bastards, they come with a pre-fit washer. They're self-tapping. These are number 12s. I think they fit into the clips. But let me get this wing back on and where it should be. There's nothing holding it on at the moment. It's just kind of slipped into place. So I just need to go to the back and just double check that it is in the right place, and then I can lift it up and yes, screw it on, so to speak. Then while I'm at it, I need to order new studs for these, so they're going to come out in a minute. They need to come out. There's the other manifold down there. In fact, these studs don't look too bad actually. I'll double check them. Yeah. Trucking on. Gonna get on with it, folks. Let's gabbing on more. Now, there's no door check strap on this thing at the moment, which is quite useful, but when you've got no door check strap, you do have an alarming amount of kind of movement on the door, which is bloody useful when it comes to painting and so forth. But just be careful of that if you haven't got your check straps in place yet, because I want to get all of the shut faces and internal faces on this door painted. Now it's all lined up, and I know I need to put some more screws in there. I've also got to lube all the bolts that are in there already. Front wing's only just roughly in place. But you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, folks. Well, that's mildly fucking irritating. So I've just gone to go and check that the lip on the back here is actually attached in. Hey, look, there's no fucking lip on it. I can fix it, but I wasn't planning on kind of like going down this route yet. So I'm going to take this rear wing off. I think it's just a screw at the top here that's holding it in place. Get it off, find out what's going on that corner section. Ah, bollocks. I was looking forward to getting... Fuck my boots, that shuts nicely. I want to get some paint on it tomorrow. It's 28 today, 24 tomorrow. So if I get in sharpish, I should be able to paint. Well, this is that disaster zone that was hanging off the steering column. It's just a mix of absolutely everything going on here. Yeah, I think we'll be able to fix it though. So it's just a case of taking each switch in turn, fixing them, putting the right fixings back on, because as you can see we've got all sorts going on in here. Bit of old inner tube as well by the looks of things. Yeah, we'll be able to fix it. There's nothing particularly complex about this, so I'm not going to end up videoing everything I've got here. It's really a case of just dealing with each switch in turn. So ignition switch is the first one. Just check the wires on that. For some reason it's got shock blocks all over it. Well, we'll soon replace those with proper bot connectors. Bind the loom back in again, make sure everything works, and put it back together again. Some of these switches are unobtainium. So for instance, the original wiper switch that goes on the left side of the column is unobtainium now, but they're relatively easy to fix. They're not that difficult because you undo the screws here and you've got access to all of the contacts on the inside, so that will clean up nicely. It looks like it's had a new indicator stalk fitted, which probably, judging by the angle of that, came from a series vehicle rather than a Range Rover, which is probably why all of that shit is on there. Some of it's not even connected. Look, you can see just cut wires in there. So God knows what's going on in there. Like I say, it will come together. Yeah, not going to need that. Really not going to need that. And then we'll find the right screws and fixings to go in here to hold it all together. Oh, Lincoln Green. Right. Where are we? Well, I painted the insides of the doors. It's gone on satin black. The dash is starting to go back in again. I need to get another windscreen. Still not. I still need to get the windscreen sorted out. The seal has gone back in again. I took it out while I painted. Bonnet's back on, as the observant amongst you will notice. That's really just because it was getting in my way, so I lobbed it back on again. So now it's a case really of fitting this thing up. So the next real thing on the dash is going to be the heater. The loom and everything's all in place. Heater can go in. And then I can put the centre console back in, start clearing the back end of this car out. I'm really starting to get it into one piece again. I need to obviously fit all the infrastructure onto both doors. I've got the driver's door as good as it's going to get. Now I think that the rear wing is too far forwards by probably about 4 or 5 mil. You can see it's overhanging. Here you can see it's overhanging the slots. So I'm going to shift that back, and I think when that's done, it's absolutely beautiful. That now, guess how many shims I had to put onto this, bearing in mind I completely rebuilt this door. Didn't do anything with the A-post other than weld it together. No shims. That's actually a worry, I'll be honest. The reason being is, had the door needed more space than it's got, and what I'm basically doing is I'm looking at the top edge here, and I'm comparing the gap front and back, and it's bang on where I want it to be. Had I needed the aperture to be wider, then I would have been into grinding off the back of the hinge, which is far less than ideal. But bolstered it all up. Not one bloody shim. Now, admittedly, I did do quite a lot of work on this edge of the door, and it has, as you know, been more or less completely rebuilt. But it fits, and it's straight. When I position that in properly, it's straight. I'm happy with that. More than happy. That is a thing of beauty. Now, I know you lot are scoffing, and do you know what? I quite like it. I like the kind of like the honest rat look appeal of this. Red Shed was a car. Had I kept Red Shed would have been exactly as it looked when you last saw it on a video, with all the outer panels looking a bit on the scruffy side, but mechanically and structurally perfect, which is more or less what this car's going to be. Mechanically and structurally perfect. The owner, John, has got a real aversion to rust. Quite why you buy a 1970s Range Rover when you've got a real aversion to rust. No, I'm not even going to go there. But this car really is coming back together. Now, I started to look at the wings. So we'll go to passenger side wing first, because again, it kind of goes with the patina, the overall look of the car. There's quite a big old dent on the front end there, and I'm going to try and straighten that out a little bit. But overall, that's not a bad wing. I'm going to bolt that back up. There's a little bit of papier-mâché. The previous owner on this car loved papier-mâché. Now, you think that's bad? There's a Sudoku puzzle up here. I'm going to give this a go in a minute. For fuck's sake. What I'm actually going to do here, probably with both of these wings, because if I start replacing this wing with another one, then you're going to lose the overall effect. I mean, it's bad enough with the brown door, really. I could probably dust that in with some satin green, make it look a little bit like the front and back wings, but that's down to the paint shop. So then we started looking at bonnets, John and I. He popped over in a week for one of his progress updates. So let me just get bits and bobs off the bonnet, and I'll get it open. Oh, it's not the lightest thing in the world. Now, a pop riveted repair section. Yeah. Yeah. I've probably got a better bonnet than this. Because John was talking to me really about, he doesn't mind the fact that it's a bit scruffy, but he doesn't want the holes in it. And I said, well, you start digging into this, you're just going to find a world of filler. Now, I don't know. I mean, I think realistically, it probably needs to go to John's body shop chappie, who's going to do the next phase of the work. And if he decides that bonnet is a bridge too far, then he's going to probably come back to me, because I've got a couple of bonnets. I've got Tim's old Bahama Gold bonnet, which I was going to put onto the Lincoln Green project I've got down in Devon, the a-suffix. When I prep that, put it up, basically get it complete, ready for sale. And I've got a white bonnet back here, both exposed hinges. But yes. So, good old bonnet, really. I think, I try not to think, actually, it's probably a lot easier. I think with the overall look of the car, I might be inclined to make this bonnet a little bit better and leave it as it is. Kind of going for the kind of the rat look, but there is, as John is well aware, there is a very fine line between rat look and shed. And I think the bonnet is more shed than rat look. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. But there are options, whatever. So heater McHeater face. I've been over. I've refelted the pads. I just need to put the small strip of felt on the back edge there, which kind of just stops some of the drafts and things going through. And I've started to reassemble. So all I've really done with this thing is retreated the rust on it. I've replaced the panels, which were terminal. There's one of the spare boxes that I took off one of the scrap cars that I took apart in a Taylor 3 Landies. And the panel I took off that one was good enough to go onto this one. There it is, largely painted. I'll finish off the paint once it's all together, but I wanted to get the majority of the inside of it painted. And while I had the brush, I did the majority of the outside. Once it's all fully assembled, then I'll paint it again. I'll go the army approach once it's all together, it will just get paint over the areas where there's exposed steel. Now, off that scrap heater, I also managed to salvage a motor, which I think is serviceable. It turns. The motor that came off the vehicle, there's my 13mm socket there that I've been looking for absolutely ages. The motor that came off the vehicle was just fucked. I don't know if it's been in the sea. It's my kind of honest appraisal. It might have been in the sea. It's good for parts, not a lot else. I've got a motor here which is complete and it works. Now the matrix that came out of the original heater box is good. I filled it up with water this morning. I know it's green on the outside, that's because there's lots of copper involved in it. Filled it up with water and it filled up within a minute and it drained out within 30 seconds. Well, you can't hope for much more out of a heater matrix, and when I filled it up with hot water, I could feel warmth over the entire surface of the matrix. So it doesn't leak, it's going straight back in. So I think what I'm going to do, because the weather is turning less pleasant, more inclement, and we are expecting a lot of rain today, I'm going to put this heater box together, test it, get it installed in the car. As far as the controls are concerned, I've now got 2 sets of control, and really all I'm going to do with this is just do a massive degrease, and I can lob it together. The only bit, by the way, on this original heater box which didn't survive was that there was a couple of panels. There was that piece and that piece there, which were riveted onto the bottom end there. And what I'm basically going to do is, once it's all together and I've got the 2 ends on, I shall make up a new piece of steel to go over the bottom there. Strictly speaking, it only needs it for the structural rigidity and the completeness of the heater, because once the flap is down, it kind of covers over that area anyway. But I could tidy that up. The rest of the thing is going to be rot-free, fully functional, beautiful heater unit. Oh yes, don't we know it? Now, as far as the screw fixings are concerned, they're all in fairly good shape. And I've taken 2 heaters apart here. There's a world of screw fixings and so forth. These tiny little, I couldn't tell you what the size they are. They're 3.2 mil. Any that are serviceable, that have got good heads on them, I'm just going to go straight back in again. And again, a little bit of lube on the threads before they go in, and paint over the top once they're done. And then we've got the end bearing plates for the blower. As you can see, the bearing is still stuck on that one. You can get them off, just tiny bit of heat, a little bit of release penetrant. I haven't got it over here at the moment, but I use kind of one of the WD-40 products. It's actually not WD-40 used for releasing, but they do a proper release agent. I'll get that ball off there, because otherwise what's going to happen is the shaft should spin inside that ball. That will squeal like a piglet. So I need to get that shaft tidied up. I can say shaft another time, I'm sure. I'm going to say shaft again. I have actually got another complete fan blower around somewhere. It might actually be in the heater down here, which I was considering using just in case. But I got the end plate that came off the vehicle, which I think is probably just a little bit too far. And I've got the one that came off the donor unit, which is actually in better shape. Whatever happens, it will be a complete heater that works. Like I say, you can't ask much more than that. Right, enough gabbing on, more assembling. I'll do the heater later on. I'll show you what I do with these motors, sorry, when I take them apart. But I'm going to need to disassemble the motor in order that I can lube up the bearing in the end cap there. In fact, I'll show you on this one. In there you can see the big phosphor bush, and around the outside of it there's a felt pad. And all I do is I put oil onto the felt pad so that the ball is able to move. That ball at the moment is seized in there solid. The ball needs to be able to move, otherwise what happens is as it heats up, cools down, the ball doesn't move, and then the shaft on the motor armature starts to squeak, which is why you put lubrication in there.